Welcome to People Love Process. This movie is going to be a little different than normal. I could have put this under the branding of over the shoulder vector building because that's kind of what we're going to do. But this is a little different one. I didn't want to title it that. I wanted to title it what I'm going to be titling this one, which is Creating a Dad Band Design. Now, that sounds kind of weird. But it's a weird project. That's kind of why I thought it would be fun. I grew up in the Pacific Northwest and very familiar with the Bigfoot lore, Sasquatch, whatever name you want to use to describe that mythology. But it's pretty popular here in the Pacific Northwest. I mean, it originated out of California with the video that goes back to the 70s that I kind of grew up seeing and being fascinated about. But there's a lot of legends in Washington State where I grew up because its forests are everywhere. And I've done Bigfoot themes before. Here's one piece of art I did last year. This movie's on People of Process is actually episode 2 of Over the Shoulder Vector Building. So if you didn't see that, check this out. It was one that I did because I saw a story about a walking kind of hiking path that I thought was pretty cool. So I decided to create something that was inspired by that. So make sure to check that out. Well, this one is a little different because it's a client that I originally worked with back in 2006. And out of the blue, I got an email, and that's what I want to show you now, is all the email said was, "Hey, Vaughn, Luke from Shear. Shear's the company that they run. It's like a plumbing wholesaler of everything a plumber would need to do his job. And you created the Shear Pioneer back in the 2006-ish. I have a dad band on the side called the Harry Trumans. We're in KC, get it? Harry Truman, the former president of the United States. That's where he was born, in Kansas City. So they took it and they kind of played off his name. Instead of Harry, Harry, they're doing it Harry, like Harry Trumans. And I'd love to have a logo that combines a Bigfoot like Harry from Harry and the Hendersons and an iconic Harry Truman smiling kind of photo, or the way Harry Truman smiled. Could you do it?" And I was like, for a few days, I don't know if I want to work on this. I go, he's not going to want to pay the budget I need to make it worth my time. And I almost turned it down, but then I said, whatever, I could do this. And by the way, the work I did for him in 2006, this was the branding that I did for his company. They're still using it. We updated the typography in 2014 to what it is showing here, but the brand mark pretty much stayed the same. So I've always liked this brand. It was kind of a fun project to work on. And so I agree. I gave him a quote and he approved it. So I'm not going to lose money on this, but I thought it'd be a fun one to feature on this channel. And I've worked through the drawing aspect of this, and I'll show you that in just a second. But we're going to build the art. I haven't built the art yet. So that's what we're going to do here. Now, obviously, I go to reference to see what Harry Truman looked like. The only color one I could find was Time magazine cover down in the bottom middle. Everything else was black and white. So, he was, I forget what president number he was, 41, something like that. So we're talking quite a while ago, the 50s. And so I just started drawing. And the first sketch I sent him looked like this. And it's your standard kind of Bigfoot, but he has that kind of Harry Truman smile. But then I said to him when I sent this, maybe we should slap some Harry Truman type glasses on him. And he said, yeah, do that. I want to see what that looks like. Okay, so I did that, and I slapped some glasses on him, and I thought, okay, that's kind of goofy, but I'm kind of liking it. The other thing, if you look at the top of his head up here, I changed it from my original one. Since it's symmetric, this looks a little too replicated at the top. I think it'd look better unifying those shapes. So I redid the top, and I think that looks better. Now, after he saw this, and he goes, hey, if we're going to put glasses on him, let's just put a hat on him because Harry Truman always wore a hat. And I go, okay. And so I had sent him this sketch, and it's getting more progressively kind of strange here. But the more I looked at this, I'm going, well, as far as a hat goes in general, it looks good, but I don't think it's the right type of hat that Harry Truman wore. And when I researched, I found out he actually wore a specific brand. It's J.B. Stetson open range hat. And the characteristic of that hat is the bill kind of flares up, doesn't go downward. This one's okay if it was like think Indiana Jones's father's type hat, but that's not really the style he wore. So I knew I had to redo the hat. So I went and found some good reference that's kind of straight on to kind of pick up on that characteristic. And I found a pretty good photo of that exact model of hat. And so I just copied the photograph, pasted on this just to give me something to draw from, and then just match the aesthetic. And this is what the final sketch looks like. So this is what we're going to build, is this base artwork. Now, I'm going to be locking it up with type, but I'm going to only spend time covering the build in this movie, and then I'll stop recording, and then off camera I'll work out the type and then record additional, and we'll add it together so it'll be all one package. But it'd just take too long to try to do that all in one sitting, so I didn't want to do that. So we're going to take this sketch. This is just a TIFF image, grayscale TIFF image, and I'll go to transparency. I'll set this for like 15%. I'll lock it. You can see I dropped a guide down the middle. Since this is a symmetric process we're going to be using to build our artwork, we don't have to build both sides. We'll just focus on building one side and then reflecting it over. So I think the area that I want to start out with, because it's all based off of the simplest shapes, are the easiest ones to create. And this is going to be elliptical shapes to create his eyes. So we'll just go ahead and do that. And by the way, when I'm building stuff like this, I have my iPad right in front of me on my desk as I'm working, and I'm usually binge watching something. But in this case, I do have an iPad in my recording booth here. But I obviously don't have that turned on because I'm recording. So, or I'm listening to a good audiobook, like that. Let's go ahead and create the glasses. That'll govern the rest. So I'll go ahead. And another thing is I don't always go back and grab the same, like ellipse tool here. It's easier just to select a shape and hit F3, which clones it. If you have the contextual menu bar, I have that turned off. I don't like it. You could select a shape and hit duplicate. It'd accomplish the same thing. So all I'm going to do is kind of figure out the sizing here. I'm paying attention to the width in my drawing, like that. And I want this to be, he wore these round spectacles, so it's pretty characteristic of him. That is Harry Truman. Let's go ahead and clone this, and we'll create the outer part. I think that looks good. Like that. And we'll figure out, just so we keep some continuity in this, I'll figure out what kind of offset I want to do to create the top edge of the glasses here. And I'll use that same tolerance on the inset of the eyes to make this refractive area that goes on the inside of the lens and on the bridge of his nose. And we'll pick that up through that so the continuity will remain intact. So let's go ahead and select this. We'll go object, we'll go path, we'll go offset path. And I'm going to do a negative number. Right now I must have done 10 the last time. It's been a couple months since I've recorded because we had some issues at the end of last year. Our garbage disposal, that's too big. Let's go 4 maybe. the night before Christmas, it sounds like I'm going to tell you a holiday themed story. Our garbage disposal like sprung a leak in the middle of the night, and it flooded, and we didn't see anything until halfway through the next day. My wife opens up underneath the counter, and all this water pours out on our kitchen floor. We have wood flooring in our kitchen dining room area. Actually, it goes all the way out to our living room by our front door as well. Anyway, long story short, we cleaned it up and we thought, well, that kind of sucks, but no big deal. It's what we didn't know is it went under our cabinets, under the subfloor, destroyed a bunch of our subfloor, kind of destroyed a little over a third of our cabinets. And we didn't notice it until months later where these stains started coming up through the floor. Long story short, beginning next week, they're ripping out everything in our kitchen. So for the last 3 months, we haven't had a kitchen. It's been a real pain. And it's one reason why I had to go down to California and shoot a course, because most of them I record now in my studio. So thank you for those who've been patient, not seeing new content on a regular basis. That kind of bugs me, but there wasn't much I could do, because once it gets to a certain volume level, even with the recording booth, I can't record. It'll just be too loud, especially next week. It's going to be even louder. So we're going to have to deal with that. So what I'm doing, actually, now that I'm thinking about this, why am I doing it that way? Let's use a plugin. This is part of Astute Graphics called Subscribe plugin. It's this Arch by Points tool. It's awesome. It's actually changed the way I build a lot of vector art, because instead of using a pen tool and then using the anchor tool to adjust the curves, I'll just create these on the fly, and it allows me to create these curves like this. Now, when I first discovered this tool, like it's been about 5-6 years now, it wouldn't like continue building the path. It would do it as a separate, unconnected path. And I recorded myself building as a book cover design I was doing at the time for a friend who wrote a book. And I just recorded it, and then I sent the video to Astute, and I go, this is awesome. I go, I just wish it would connect when I would start from like this anchor point and I go to like here. I wish it would stay connected so it would create one continuous path. And at the time it didn't do that, because they never intended people to use it like this. And they're going, that's actually a good idea. We never thought people would use that. And like within a few weeks they added it. So it's awesome. And you can turn that off. That's what I also like about Astute Graphics is it's not a one-size-fits-all, because some people might not want to use it for that, and in which case you just, set the preferences to work the way you want it to work. I think that's how all digital tools should work. It should work the way you prefer it to work, not the way some Adobe engineer who doesn't even use their own software that they develop for kind of dictates how you should use it. That's why I'm always telling them when they create new features, give us prefs where we can turn that off by default. But they cater to the noob. They cater to those who aren't familiar with Illustrator, and they try to dumb it down to a degree that it becomes less useful, in all honesty. So, okay, we have most of the content here, the eye. So what I'm going to do is focus on the nostril once I get that shape. And I think this is pretty circular. It won't be a perfect circle, I think. So I'm holding the Option key down so it goes from the center out. That just makes it easier. And I think I'll pull this that way. And I'll pull it this way. So it's not perfect, close. It's not a perfect circle though. I'll clone it. And now I'll hold Option down again to do the outside area. Like that. And then I'm going to pull this in. This won't be perfect, so I'm going to have to go in here and kind of pull that here. Go like this. I think this one needs to go over a little bit. We'll adjust that curve so that's looking good. And then down here, I think I'm going to bring this one right up like that. Doesn't matter what this looks like, it's this curve that I'm kind of paying attention to. And I think on this one, I can pull this down. And this is where I'll just finesse with the Bezier curves till I get what I want. Now, if it's trying to snap to something, I'll turn Smart Guides off, Command U, just so I can move this so it can be close to this path without automatically trying to snap to it. So I think that looks pretty good. Maybe a little flat here. Let's pull that up a bit. Pull this one in. So I think that's looking pretty good. I'm just thinking. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is bring this to front, select the outer one. We'll create a giant donut here. Where's my PathScribe panel? Oh, do I not have that open? Pathfinder? Oh, okay. Somehow I had it turned off. Well, that's kind of weird. Normally it's in here, so I'll just shove it back. And I'll go minus front. So all we did is create a donut shape. Oop, I don't want the nostril in there. Like that. And we just created donut shape like that. So I did that because I want to cut it here and there. And I'll select that and I'll trim out that part so the nostril looks like it's going over the front like that. Now, since we have this and this shape, actually, let's go ahead and pull that down a little more like that. I'll select these two. I'll go unite. Make sure, once you do unite, it'll automatically default to a group. So I always run my compound keyboard shortcut, which is F7. If you don't have keyboard shortcuts, you really should set up keyboard shortcuts. It makes life go so much faster. To do a compound, you just pull down to compound path and then over and make. But I never do that now since I've been using keyboard shortcuts for like literally 20 some years now. So take this, select the inside shapes, intersect like that. That looks good. We'll select this eye. We'll go ahead and fuse that as well. So we have the inner detail. This part right here, I'll do that in a little bit because it'll be easier to build a separate shape, fuse it with it, and then use rounding to accomplish what I want. This one I'll bring to the front like this. I'll minus front. So now we have that nice nostrils shape. It's weird. The inset video down here that I'm looking straight at you through it keeps kind of wigging out of sorts. So I don't know what that's all about. Anyway, so we have those shapes. I'll make this adjustment a little later. Let's focus on the nose or the nostril area because this is where it's going to be a very, for the most part, this nostril shape can be elliptical shape. So we can kind of create that pretty easy by doing something like this. But this shape is going to be a freeform shape. So I'll start probably right about here. Put an anchor point here. Just pull out the handles to have it available. It comes up to a 12 o'clock position. Pull out the handles and then goes all the way down to a 6 o'clock. Let's turn Smart Guides back on. Command U. That way it'll snap to this guide like that. Then I'll click here, go here, pull out the handles as we go back from a 6 o'clock. And we'll go right up here and close the path. So I'll do a rough kind of build like this. This is where you can go grab the anchor point tool if you don't have plugins, and you can just grab a path and adjust it. But you see how it moves the corresponding segment on the other side of the anchor above where I have it selected. This is why I don't like using the built-in method. You can do it. It just means you're going to have to do more work because you'll have to adjust this and you'll have to go up here and reestablish this where you had it. So that's the only thing I don't like about it. Astute Graphics, if I go back like this to where it was originally, I can go to their plugin, which is this PathScribe tool. By the way, PathScribe pre-existed the anchor point tool doing this by about 8 years. And it's only after Astute did it that Adobe goes, oh, that's a good idea. Let's shove it into this other tool. You know, I forget what they called this before. It was called the anchor point tool. And they didn't implement it well, and you saw that it moves a segment. Well, this one's smart because I can just grab the ghost handle. That's one feature that's awesome about it. I don't even have to touch the path and pull it out. Notice the area above, the segment beyond the anchor above where I have it selected isn't moving and wigging out because it shouldn't. And that's the level of detail you don't get from Adobe engineers because, once again, they don't use the software, so they don't know any better. If they're building something like this, they go, why the hell does this move up here? That shouldn't do that. And they go, you know what? We should fix that. Well, guess why Astute notices that? It's because their head engineer is a designer, used to be a designer. Now he codes all the time. His name's John. But he knows that shouldn't do that, and so they code it so it works better. And even though Adobe ripped off the feature and claims it as, that's the thing that pisses me off. They've been ripping Astute off over and over, all these features, and then they try to get all these real hypers on social media. Oh, this is so great. Look how cool this does this and that. It's like, meanwhile, it's been around for like 8-9 years. Astute did it originally. And they're kind of stealing the thunder, in my opinion, of Astute. And that's the lame part about Adobe. It's like they have a development for Illustrator to let companies like Astute create functionality because it's either lacking or it doesn't work very well on Illustrator, and they release plugins that do work better, make it easier than native features. And then when it becomes, when it's easy for Adobe to do, they'll just wait till somebody else figures it out and then they'll rip it off. But they always implement it in a less intuitive way. The corner widget is the most primary example of that, in my opinion. Years ago, I get contacted by the Adobe engineer and say, hey, we want to show you the rounding features we're working on. I'm going, oh, that's interesting. Because Astute's rounding I'd been using for 6 years before Illustrator implemented theirs. And they showed me, and I think I might have told this story, they were originally going to release it so it would only work on 90-degree corners. And I'm going, no, you can't do that. You're going to piss off people. It's like, why would you, oops, that should be on top. Why would you do that? You know, just make it work on any type of corner. And you think so? And I go, yeah, it's like, how long do you think it's going to take somebody to use a rounding feature and have a corner that's not perfect 90 degrees and then it won't work? Then they'll go, what the hell? I go, why would you do that? Well, they must have agreed because they put off until they could figure that out. And it took them like 3 months to figure that out. So it's kind of like a cruise ship in a speedboat. A cruise ship, it takes about 12 miles for it to start to slow down enough to begin turning around and going in a different direction. A speedboat can turn on a dime. Astute is a speedboat. Adobe is a very kind of slow and lethargic cruise ship, if you want to put it that way in terms of development. Okay, so I think that nostril shape looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and create the creases in the nose because those will be easy. Hey, by the way, if anybody plays PUBG Mobile, email me and we need to play a game together. There's a team of guys that I usually play with almost every day of the week in the evening. Okay, that looks good. But it'd be fun to play with another creative person. The people I play with, one guy is a mechanic, one guy's a retired aircraft mechanic. And actually, I'm not going to put that up there. I'm going to go like this. And one's a farmer. And it's really, I don't know, we have fun. It's a fun game. Okay, I'm going to offset this now. Actually, I only want this outside shape. Oh, that's right. Let's go ahead and offset it. We want to do +4, like that. And then, actually, let me do something different. Take this just so I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to fill this. We'll get rid of the outline. Create the side shapes here. Something like that. Okay, then we'll fuse all these together. Then I'll do offset. Like that. That looks good. Sometimes when I'm creating, things will get sloppy just because I'm going to add an anchor there, snap it there, and then just adjust it like that. Okay, I'll take this and we'll select this and I'll go Pathfinder -front, ungroup, delete all the extra stuff, and now we have that shape. We don't need this. This will be kind of consumed with the background color, which will be dark, so we don't have to worry about that. I'll drag this down. Actually, now that I think about it, I shouldn't have done the nose shape that way. I should have figured out the arch on the nose. You know what? I'm just going to go ahead and delete that, redo this. arch like that. That's fine. Bring this to the front. Select both. Minus front. Even though it's symmetric, it's okay to cascade from one side to the other on a shape like this. I just won't reflect this one since it's already established. Now I'll go back to this tool. I should have built it this way. Like that. I remember a long time ago, this is middle school. My middle school teacher, Mr. Hollenberry, I think his name was. If you got a good grade in his class, then you got to go on a camping trip that you hike up into the Pacific Mountain Range in Washington State. And it was a 3-day hiking trip. And I got good grades in his class. Okay, now that I think about it, oops, before I do that, let's go ahead and delete that. I'll go ahead and offset this to get the highlight on the bridge of the nose. So I got to go. So a bunch of my friends who I was in middle school with, we all got to go on this hiking thing. And we decide one day we're going to hike around the lake to the opposite side, because the opposite side had a place you could basically hike up to the base of a cliff, and we wanted to carve our initials on the cliff at the base. We thought that'd be kind of cool. And so we hike all the way around, and we get and we're like 3/4 of the way up, and it's pretty steep. I mean, we're not talking 45 degrees. It was even steeper than that, covered with ground cover. And we're about 3/4 of the way up, and you look down at the lake, and it looks like you're on like a 20-story building looking way down to this small little lake. And so it's a little bit intimidating, but we hike up there, we get 3/4 of the way up, and all of a sudden we hear all this crashing sound coming from the forest to the right. We're in like a little clearing area that goes all the way up to the base of the cliff. And one of the kids, somebody said, I wonder if that's like a cougar or something like that, or a bear. We were wondering. It was some animal. I don't know what it was. But then somebody said Bigfoot, and then we all freaked out and started trying to run down the hill we could have broke our neck. I think about it now and I go, man, that was kind of crazy. Okay, so we got that shape. I think we also need to offset this here again. So we'll go path, go offset, because I have it like cutting in here and here, and I like that, so I want to retain that. So this one I'll put a little angle, and this one I'll put at another angle up here. I'll select this, I'll go intersect, then I'll select this, clone it, Command C, Command F, select this, and trim it. There we go. And now we can go back to that same tool here, and we'll make the cheek shape like that. And you can see how easy it is to use this tool to create these curves. It just goes a lot faster than trying to do it with... Now, here's an example where it's going to create a perfect mathematical curve, but I don't always want that. So I'll go in here and kind of distort that a little. I think that looks better. Because when I'm drawing, I figure out the way I want something to look before I build it. So I kind of like the way I drew it, and that's not a perfect curve. There we go. Then we'll go up here, like that. Then I can close this shape, select these two shapes, and go unite. So that's going pretty quick. Now, at times when it gets to be quite a bit of a curve, it'll add an anchor point, but you can always go back to like the Path Scribe panel and go Smart Remove. And that's another feature they ripped off of Astute Graphics was Smart Remove. I was using that 7 or 8 years before Illustrator ever added it. And the way Illustrator added it is, here, I'll do another curve like this one here. Go here, here, and then pull it out like that. It'll add this curve here. If it's a subtler curve like this, it won't add an anchor. So in Illustrator, can you just select it, and you would think you could go like up here to this, which is minus anchor point, and just click it and it'd like remove it smartly. No, it won't. You have to select it. Then, now I'm trying to remember because I don't use it every day. I believe it's hold Shift key down and then go to this tool. It's the same tool, but it won't work in the control panel, so it's inconsistent, which is another dumb implementation. You have to go to the tool in the tool panel here, the remove anchor point tool, holding with it selected, holding Shift down and click that, and it still didn't do it. What am I doing wrong? Okay, now it's not even, oh, duh, I'm not holding Shift down, I was holding Option down. Okay, hold Shift down and click this. Now I can't remember. I can't remember how to do it. I was just doing it yesterday. You'd think I'd remember. Once again, it's overcomplicated. It's multiple steps. Where Astute, you go, oh, you want to remove that? Just select it, go here, boom, done. It's just simple. Why they have to make things overcomplicated, I don't know. That's just the way they are. So that's the way it is. So now that I'm getting this far, I'll go ahead and select stuff. And at some point, it depends how fast or slow this is going. Right now, it's going a little slow, sorry. If I feel like it's going too slow, I might just stop talking, build, and then time-lapse that point, just so you don't have to sit here and listen to me go on about stupid camping stories and such. Okay, let's go ahead and clone this. I'll group it. I'm just going to move it to my junk drawer layer like this. Because why'd I do that? Because I think now I'm going to select not the bridge. Well, yeah, I'll select the bridge. And we'll select all these shapes, and we'll select the nostril shape. We'll select this shape. And on all these, I'm just going to go unite like that. And on this one, I'm just going to edit this just so it overlaps, but we don't need this side because we'll just reflect it. Oops. And it reverts to a group, so make sure it's a compound, so when you make an edit, things don't disappear. But this will also revert back to a compound. This single feature, like when you edit stuff like this, if you go to appearance, it'll always default back to a group. And every time I've done a workshop and I show this I always ask, how many people run into this, and did you realize you weren't doing anything wrong? This is just the way Illustrator, this is normal behavior according to the Illustrator team. And they're like, what the hell? That always frustrates me. I go, yeah, me too. That's the way it goes. So, okay, so let's see. We're going to, now that I'm thinking about it, I probably should have built that a little differently. Not that we can't get what we want. It's just I'm not paying attention. I'm talking too much. So we'll just go ahead and keep building. I'll build the mouth shape here like that. This will go from the center. Click and pull out. I'm going to zoom in on this so I can see it better. This is why I love the PathScribe, because it gives these ghost handles, these white nodes. So I can just grab a node and immediately it gives me access to the Bezier curve handles. And I can just adjust it like that. So I think that'll work good. Well, this is going to look a little weird, but that'll work. Let's do this because it will help us build part of the face. I'm going to start building the hat here. And we'll start off with the elliptical shape, kind of like that. And then I'll adjust that to get this bottom radius looking good. Bring this over here, kind of like that. Pull in the handle. Let's zoom in on this side. This handle, you don't want it to go up so far. This is where I think I'll keep this one like that. I think just to control it, it'd be better to put an anchor here. Then we can control it. It'll turn off smart guides since we're close to the path. I don't want it snapping on itself. I want this curve to be, this is the thing. A lot of people say you always use tangents. Well, that's okay for typography. And this is on a tangent here, but I think it's going to be easier to control if it's not on the tangent. So I'm going to use the move anchor point feature by Astute Graphics in their vector scribe, and it'll show me where another tangent is. But it's at an angle, and I think this is going to allow us to create this curve better on this tangent, which is based off of an angle. And then we might pull this in kind of like that. Sometimes I'm not sure, so I'll back it away. Then I'll move it back into position. And I just have to zoom out. Yeah, I think that's a little wonky, so let's adjust that. We're close. Maybe just a little higher on the top side. This is a case where my drawing isn't perfect, so I'm trying to improve it in the build stage. Your drawing will never be perfect, but I think that looks, yeah, I think that looks pretty good. None of this matters on the inside over here because I'll just do this to isolate the brim on this side like that. That's all we need. And that will inform us on the shape and the brow of this Harry, I guess his name's Harry Truman. Like that. Then I'll switch to this tool. And then I think we can make this curve with the handle coming out there. So I'll go down to the base, pull that out. Then this comes up to the apex right about there, goes to a point, gets a point. And then from this, I'll put this little curve in there. This little curve in there. And then on this one, turn Smart Guides back on so we can snap to this path. This will ensure I align the handles with this brim of the hat. That means it'll flow into that area good. Then I'll just go up here like that, close the shape. I'll come back to this, I'll pull the path scribe panel out. I'll go to the path scribe tool, which is here. Go to the ghost handle, pull it out like that. And I think this one can just slide down on this path a little more. That looks good. Let's finesse these. Pull that handle out. We're a little too zoomed in. Let's zoom out one level. There we go. Grab this handle. I can pull this one out here. I think that looks pretty good. Now, just to trim the shape, I'll make a copy of the brim of the hat we created. Select this shape, minus front. So that gives us that shape. All these hair ones are probably the easiest shapes because wherever it comes to point gets a point. These are easy to discern. So I'll just use this one arc tool by Astute Graphics that's found in their Subscribe plugin to create all these shapes. Like that. We'll just go down the left-hand side. This is kind of S-shape, but that's not how I'll leave it. I'm just doing that so I can keep building the other shapes. Here's the long S shape again. I'll just go ahead and connect these. I can kind of pull it out from that side, but I'm going to come back and adjust this. Then I can swing this one the other way, come back to this side, adjust it just to get that S curve kind of worked out. I don't think we need an anchor point in between. It's all about using the least amount of anchor points needed to get the shape you're intending to create. if you can do that, it's going to make it look more elegant, and you won't get a clunky kind of computer-driven look because it's more free-flowing. Okay. This should be a pretty simple one. So I went down to California last month and recorded 2 new courses over about a week's time on LinkedIn Learning's campus. Really nice facility. They got a sweet computer-driven espresso maker, so you can go in and just dial in any kind of drink. That was kind of fun. It's kind of spoiled me too. So I go down there and I start recording. I get there on I get there Wednesday, go in first day on Thursday, and I record like 4 movies. And then the software, they're not using the same software they did to capture the screen anymore. I'm still using it here in my studio because it just works good. But for some reason, because Microsoft owns them, I think that's the reason, all their IT guys are pushing all this really kind of crappy software, in my opinion, to capture the video. And it crashed on me. And I have no clue how to run it. It feels like you're on a PC when you're in that app anyway. And it's all these, it just assumes you know everything about all the video codecs and this and that. And I know nothing about that stuff. So I had to call their tech person while I was there. He came in, he said, well, that's odd. He's going, yeah, we've been having it crash like this. I'm not sure why it's doing it. And I'm going, well, maybe you should just go back to the old software. But for some reason, I don't know. They didn't like the old software. I don't know why. It seemed to work great for, it's the only one I've been using for like over a decade, and it's always worked well. But anyway, I'm recording, and so he goes, okay, so that should fix it now. And I go, okay. I proceed to record the next day, Friday, about 10 movies. And then I decide I'm going to come in Saturday, and they gave me a key so I could access the recording area whenever I wanted to, actually. And decide I'm going to record like at least 4 movies today, kind of get ahead of schedule. And I run into a technical problem for whatever reason, and I never did figure this out. It wouldn't run a script. And I was using the exact same version of Illustrator. It had just as much RAM that I had at home. It's like I couldn't figure out why. It's like it wasn't an iMac, though. It was Apple Studio machine, which are the little mini ones. So there's something on that doesn't like operating the same way, I guess. I don't know. I could never figure out. So I had to kind of scramble to figure out, okay, what do I do? How do I get this to work? And thankfully, my friend Monica, she's in Germany, but she was available and kind of talked me through a technical problem I was having. Monica's like knows more about Illustrator than the Illustrator team, in my opinion. She helped me. Well, long story short, I record the movies I want to record, and then I'm getting ready to record another one, and I go, I'm going to go back and watch the last one I recorded because I kind of liked how I framed the conversation for that one. I want to do the same, but I didn't remember exactly what I said or how I showed it. So I open up the video and I start watching it, and I can hear myself talking, but the screen capture that the software had captured the second monitor screen, not the primary one I was recording on. And so it got all the audio, but didn't catch any of the video. And I'm like, what? And then I get that sinking feeling, oh, sheesh. And I go check all the videos I recorded on Friday since it crashed on me. None of them were captured. All of them, it was recording the wrong screen. And oh man, I got so sick. I was like, it's like, oh my God, there's no way I'll get all this done now. I mean, that's like a day and a half's worth of work. And so I had to call my producer. My producer is actually based out of Portland. So I contact her and I go, could you do me a favor? Did this by any chance record and shove it to the server automatically? Because what I'm seeing, I think it recorded the wrong monitor. And I didn't tell it to record that monitor. I didn't change anything. But then something, when it crashed, reset something. And the tech guy obviously didn't know to check that and didn't say anything to me. And so basically I had to re-record like just a ton of work. The only good thing when that happens is you always do a better job on the second recording. So in that respect, I think a lot of the movies came out better. So it's okay. But oh man, I was kind of dreading it though. I'm like, oh man, I thought I was ahead of schedule. Now it's like, so I went home early on Saturday. I go, okay, well, I'm not going to record anything because I don't know if it's going to record it correctly. So that was kind of lame. I never run into that when I'm recording here at home. Okay, so this is the big kind of bottom lip Bigfoot here. We'll just select this one, minus front, like that. There we go. So all the hair highlights here, those are easy. We'll copy over all this stuff. We'll copy over. Let's do the perimeter shape of Harry's hairy head. HHH. I've never met anybody who said they've ever seen Bigfoot. I've talked to people who had friends who said they had seen him. There's an anthropologist friend of a friend of mine from way back who swears he saw a whole family of Bigfoot. I thought that was kind of interesting. Growing up, there was a show called In Search Of with Leonard Nimoy was the kind of host. It was always his voiceover, and they'd cover all the weird kind of, at that time it was even more fringe than it is now. Now it's kind of mainstream. You talk about Bigfoot, you know, my parents know who Bigfoot is. It's like they've done specials on, the History Channel on Bigfoot, just like they've done the UFO stuff. I remember when UFOs was like, that's crazy National Enquirer type stuff. And now they have Ancient Aliens on the History Channel and stuff. But I've always been fascinated with that kind of stuff. I loved In Search Of just because it was fun. It is the age before the internet where you could, you didn't have a chance. You couldn't Google anything back then. Say, what? No way, But I did like it. It was fun. Loch Ness Monster. They covered a lot of interesting stuff. Well, the director, I want to say Chris Pine. That's an actor. That's not who I'm thinking of. Chris Carter, director. He grew up, he's my age, he grew up watching In Search Of, also watched another show called Kolchak. And it was kind of a investigative reporter who would investigate paranormal type stuff. And if you ever watch the Christmas Story, where I want a BB gun. You'll shoot your eye out. That one. The father figure, who was that kid's father, he was the actor that played the reporter in Kolchak, and it was a cool series. I think it's only on 2 seasons, but I really liked it because it was just, I don't know, it was just a cool concept and kind of fun. Well, Chris Carter liked that too, and that was his inspiration behind doing the X Files. I remember when I had bought the DVD set for the X Files, and me and my two daughters were uh, watching it, and it'd been a few years since I had watched the X Files. I watched it when it was on, when it aired, when I was working down in California at Upper Deck. And so we were watching it. My youngest daughter, Alyssa, at the time, she the episode with the guy that could fit through the vent system and sneak into people's house, and he would like need to feed every so many years, and otherwise he is like whatever. That kind of freaked her out. But she liked watching it. She kind of. It's almost like some kids just like to be scared. That I've never liked scary movies. I still don't like scary movies. But my daughter Alyssa said, "Okay, Mom doesn't want to go see It, the new Stephen King It movie. Would you go with me?" And I go, "I don't want to see that. I don't like scary movies." I remember when the It show came out on TV, and it freaked me out with Pennywise and all that. But I said, okay, fine. So I went with her. And actually, I thought the TV show one was more scary, was scarier, that is, than the movie. It was creepy. Some of the things were creepy, like the head that I don't know, somebody got decapitated and the head sprouted these like spider legs or crab legs, started scampering off. That was a little freaky. But I don't like being scared when I watch movies. I like movies that are kind of make you think. The kind of movies where they don't really need effects. It's just a really good story. Like Shawshank Redemption. I'm sure that has some kind of effects in it for certain things, but it's just a great story. Seems like they don't make as many of those, probably because they can't. I want to make sure I get this profile of the hat. And let's just do this. Let's go remove it there. That's easier. Is that flaring out too much? Maybe I'll pull this over. Pull this in. There. That looks good. Okay. I think I'm going to just go ahead and finish up the hat, and then I need to create this shape so I can offset it here. And okay. I really like hats. My favorite hat is what's called a pork pie hat. I had a great kind of white strawed pork pie hat, and I made the mistake of traveling with it, and I left it in the overhead luggage area on a plane, never did get it back. That kind of sucked. So I stopped traveling with it because I didn't want to lose another one. And then I decided I just won't take it off so I won't forget it on a plane. And then I went to see a movie, and when I was down recording at LinkedIn, this before I had my booth, and set it on the chair next to me, and I walked off and forgot about it. So I ended up losing my favorite one, which was a white straw pork pie hat. So, moral of the story, keep it on your head, don't take it off. Okay. I'm gonna a little higher on this end. See what the angles. I'll try that. I'll try matching that angle. It looks pretty close. Pull this one in a bit. Okay. I think that's good. I'm going to make a copy of this though. Command C, Command F. Select these and just drag them down because I want to offset this to get this gap here. So I go here, I'll go path, I'll go offset, I think about 6 maybe. Nope, 7. And do I hear 8? We'll do 8. Okay, making sure this is in front. Select this, and we'll trim it. There we go. We have an extra anchor point here. I'm going to smart remove that because I want to be able to round this corner. Kind of like that. Now that we offset, I can get rid of that shape. Okay. I'm gonna take these shapes. Well, we'll take this shape here. Add an anchor point. Okay, I'm going to select these. I'm going to go ahead and unite those. Oh, nope. I need a copy of this. Bring it to front. Select this. Okay. Now I'll go ahead and combine these or fuse them together. Okay, we're getting there. It's going a little slower than I thought, but It is what it is. I'm just going to get it to the point of black and white art, like that. Oops, don't want that. Clone this. I'm going to bring this up. Select these two, go like that, just to get the top and the bottom of these kind of, I've always called these tiger tooth detailing. Actually, now that I look at it, I might bring this in. There, that looks better. It's kind of a style. Oops. Don't start doing that on me. Sometimes this tool does that. There, that's what I want. It's a way to get a graphic stylized kind of gradation of sorts without using tonal values, because this is all going to be one dark color. We'll work out it into a black and white, but ultimately I think we're going to be using a really dark brown hue. Like that. We're going to go ahead and lop off this right side here. Then take these tiger tooth details that we just built, minus front. And now we have the little, because this brim of his hat on Harry Truman's hat, his straw hat, the Stetson he always wore was white. I think his white straw with a black band. So this is going to be black. Everything else is white here. So I'm going to create this little side highlight just to add some volume in there. I could have offset this. Actually, what I can do is I can go here up to here and just create a shape like this, build it out, close the path, and now I can just go ahead and offset this. So I go path, offset. We'll use 8, that's fine, like that. And on this one, go path, offset. We'll use 8 on that. We don't want this to impede on it. Like that. I'll take these two shapes that I created, unite them together. And all I'm going to do is create a shape. Okay, that works. You know, I've been using Astute Graphics plugins like for so long now that, let's say, I don't know, Astute went away. It would be such a dramatic shift in my productivity. And that's how much I just love them. It just makes doing stuff so much easier. Okay, that shape looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and just round it. So I'll go ahead, round this section, round that section. That looks pretty good. Okay, let's focus on the top part of the hat here. I'm going to go ahead and I haven't reflected the whole head yet, but I'm going to reflect the hat because it'll be easier to create the inner detail if we can just offset it. So I've reflected it over using the reflect tool, fused it together, double click, Command A, we have an artifact in the middle here, get rid of that. Okay, now that we've done this, I'm going to go ahead and offset this. We'll do it a negative number. I think we'll do -8, like this. And you can see we're creating this top profile rather than trying to build that. It's a lot faster doing it this way. So I'll go okay. Now the rest of this shape, I'll just create manually. Like this, it'll come up to this apex. We'll put an anchor point there. It'll come down here. This will be like 90 degrees here where it comes to a point, gets a point. So I'll go ahead and just finesse these shapes. Pull that out. I'll go to the path scribe tool. I'll pull this out. Notice that S, it means I corrected that smooth anchor. So it's now a smooth anchor again. It isn't a corner. So I think that shape looks good. Then I'll switch back to this other plugin, the arc tool, to create these little tiger tooth details like this. And I'll go down here and here it goes again. And I'm just going to do this one. Now, this is a subtle curve, so I'll go right to the 12 o'clock position. We'll create this curve with the handle from that. I'll connect this. Now I'll go back to the path scribe tool, grab the ghost handle, adjust this like this, pull this one out, grab this ghost handle, get the right part of that curve, and I think that looks really good. So now I'll just close out this shape like this, snap to the middle, go over like this, and close it out. Now I can select this inset we did, select the shape we just did, go intersect. Now I have this complete shape, and I'll go ahead and clone it, Command C, Command F, go to the reflect tool, go to a central anchor point, reflect it over. I don't want it to create an additional anchor point, so I'll just move those down like that. Double select those, unite them. Now I can take this ellipse tool that's the top of the band here, make sure it's on front, select this shape, and trim that bottom edge, and now we have all the detail up there. So the hat's pretty much done except for reflecting over the inner part of the brim here and this highlight. So I'll just do that really quick. Find a central anchor point, reflect them over. Select the two brim shapes, unite them. Now we have that all done. Let's go ahead and do, we'll do the hair, whether it's the hair detail here. Don't have to do the nose. We'll do this shape. Actually, we'll do all these shapes in here. So I'll just drag select them. And this, I think that's all of them. Let's check. Yep, that's all of them. I'll go ahead and clone them. Command C, Command F. Go to reflect tool, find a central anchor point, reflect it over like that. Oops, I made a copy of that. We didn't need that. We'll delete that. And now I'll take these shapes here, just so you can see what I'm doing. Let's go ahead and fill these with blue. We're just going to unite these shapes like this. And we're going to make a copy, bring it to the front, select this shape, which makes up, for lack of a better term, his lip or whatever. And unite that, and we'll unite this. And now we can just go release compound. Might have to ungroup it, delete it. I'm just going to select all these and go sample here. So now we have all of our shapes. We actually don't need this one anymore. So I can just delete that. I still have to go back and I have to make those edits on, oh, I forgot his teeth. He needs teeth. Yeah, I'm going to go back now and just do these edits like on these, selecting, oh, we had anchors there. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go from these anchors and I'm just going to go up ever so slightly, move this over, select this shape now. Actually, let's make a copy of this. And we'll slide this over to this side because I'll select this shape and I'll trim it. And I'm doing that just to have a clean end, so it's just two anchors here. That way I can just have it end in a circular shape. Now my drawing had it going down a little further, but I think that's fine. I'll do this one, same thing here. Same thing there. We'll go over here and do that to these ends here and this end here. And we're also going to do it on either side of the highlight on the bridge of the nose like that. That looks good. Okay, let's do his teeth. Well, actually, let's reflect or select the hair, the inside hair, and we'll go ahead and unite those together. And we're going to do his brow here, these two shapes. We'll unite those together. There we go. And we're going to take the perimeter hair, clone it, go to a central anchor point, reflect it with the reflect tool, select both, unite these like that. And the last thing we're going to do is build the teeth, and we'll just color black and white. And from that point, I will figure out kind of how to handle the type. I don't want to do that in this recording and make it too long, but it will be part of this in movie. And but I think it's important to show you like how I think when I approach that, because I do like doing that. I'll get the base art established on something, then I'll come back to it and think, how could I handle the type treatment? And that's what we'll cover in the second part. Let's go ahead and finish these teeth here. Get these teeth all worked out. And I think this is a case where we can make squircles. Now you might be going, what's a squircle? Well, I'll show you what a squircle is. We'll use the ellipse tool to determine the overall volume of a tooth shape like that. And a squircle is if you select two anchors and you hit the S key and then you grab the handle, notice how you can distort it like this. And this is how you get these imperfect kind of round shapes. In this case, we're going to use it to kind of establish the base of the teeth here. And I'll just copy this, I'll move it over, and let's see, let's establish a width. So I'll go 1, 2, so 2 nudges, then I'll just size it down to match this tooth like that. Then I'll clone this one, move it over, nudge it over twice, then I'll size this one down like that. So I always try to think of an easiest way to build this. It just makes the process go faster. In here, I think we're going to use the same, might use the same proportion we used up here, like on the bridge of the nose shape down. It might be a little too thick now that I'm thinking about it. So we'll try it. We'll select these two, and I'm going to make a clone of them. We'll go ahead and color them blue, and we'll unite them together. And now we're going to go offset. Offset is a go-to feature for me. In this case, we're going to do round. And let's see what 4 looks like. Okay. I still think it's a little too big. Let's do 3.5. I think that looks better. I think that's going to work better. So we'll just stick with that. We don't need the blue fill. That was just to show you how I create those shapes. And now, because I'm too lazy to create new shapes, I'm just going to clone this one, move it down. And because most of the top is covered, I'll just size it kind of like that. Clone it, move it over, nudge it a couple, and we're going to size this one down right about there. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think I'm going to make that a little bigger. Something like that. And I'll make it a little wider. And on this one, I'll go ahead and offset this the same distance, 3.5. And we'll do this one. I'm going to clone this, select this one, and unite it. I'm noticing that kind of bugs me, so I'm going to cheat here. I think what I'm going to do is just grab this, actually get rid of that one, grab this one, and slide it out, and then snap it. So even though the math didn't work out, so it's right there, I think it's going to actually look better having it there. So I'll make a copy of this now again, select this one, unite it, take this tooth on the bottom, and just to trim it out, just to add those nice gaps in here, I'll take this one, bring it to the front, select the bottom tooth like that. And now all we have to do is the arches here, and this is easy because we'll just go like this. We'll create this arch. It's like the gum line, I guess. Like that. And then we'll go on this one. We'll put it like that. Okay, select these. We'll unite those. Make sure this one's on top. Select these teeth. Minus front. Boom, we have the top teeth here. Let's select all of these. Sample the same line weight. And then this is where I don't want these come to kind of a sharp vertex here. I want this to be rounded off too. So I'll just figure out what would be a good round. And this is where I'd use Astute Graphics dynamic corners. I think that looks good. This one's a little bigger, so I'll make this a bigger round. This one's smaller, so I'll make this smaller round. Like that. And I think that looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and reflect those teeth, color the black and white, and call it done for at this point. So I'll clone these, Command-C, Command-F, find a central anchor point, select all the teeth, and we'll just unite those. So now we have all the base shapes. This is a point. Oh, I forgot to reflect this on the band. Let's go ahead and do that. Go to central anchor point, reflect it over, select both, unite. Now it's at this point I'll select everything, Command-C, Command-F, copy it, group it, and this is where I'll put a copy of this in my junk drawer. Now all I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of these independent shapes that make out the perimeter of the hat and the head. We'll fuse those together. If I go ahead and just fill this with the black color, and I go ahead and copy it, select all the interior shapes, paste behind. These are just on top. These interior shapes, we can turn off our sketch. We don't need the guide anymore. I can select all of these free-floating shapes that are on top here, and we'll get rid of the outline, and we'll just color them white. You can see it looks good, except this shape is on top of the nostril shape. So let's go ahead and select that, paste behind. Select this one, and this is the only one that's what I call a donut shape, where it kind of punches through another shape. like this. So we have all the base artwork pretty much done for Harry Trumans. I'll go ahead and work out the color and work out the type, and you'll see that in just a few seconds. Okay, for you, it's only been a few seconds, but I went ahead, and this is where we kind of ended up at in the first part of this movie. And I stopped recording because everything I wanted to do moving forward would just have taken, well, it took me approximately 49 minutes to do everything I want to show you after this point. And let's first close some of these pop-up windows. We don't need them open. I'll move this up here just to make it a little cleaner. So this is where we ended up at. And what I always do after I get to this point is I tend to set it aside. I focus on something else, do some other tasks that I need to get done for maybe another project. And then I come back to it and I assess it and decide, is it exactly the way I want it to look? Is there any changes I want to make? Well, one thing I know I'm going to be doing is all of these anchor points come to a dagger sharp point. So if I zoom in, you can see these come to really sharp points. I like to go in and I use the dynamic corners by Astute Graphics to do most of my rounding, and I add subtle rounding. So I'm going to turn on this layer above it and just notice the difference where it comes to these sharp points. So this is non-rounded, this is rounded. And it's just a very subtle thing that most people aren't going to be looking at the art this close, but I just think it buttons up a design to add in these subtle rounds. But another thing I want to point out, if we zoom out again, is I did make some edits. And that is, like down here, I had this part extend under the glasses just so you see a little more of the rim of the glasses. And I just felt afterwards that was unnecessary, and I didn't like these side elements that I had added up here, so I decided to remove those. And I thought this was a little blunt and fat up here, and so I thinned those out. So pay attention to those areas as I toggle it on. If you look at the top of the hat, you can see how I made edits where I took out those reflections and just remove that part under the glasses. And I really like the improvement it added under the glasses because it is unnecessary. It was okay to have that on the side here to define that much more of the frame as it goes up to the part that connects to the, I don't know what you call it, the leg of the side of the glasses. But those are things I do, subtle rounding and making any art directive decision to basically improve the art moving forward. Now that I have that, we can get into the hairy coloring. Now, there's a lot of different ways you can handle coloring in Illustrator. There's color exploration with the color tool. I rarely use that. It would be nice if they say you can do generative recolor with the recolor tool now, but is it really artificial intelligence? It'd be nice if I could just select this art and say, hey, show me ways I could color this, and it would know what to do. It can't. It'll just show you black and white. So you have to do some coloring on your own before you use the recolor tool. So I would rather just do it manually. In this case, I don't want to get overcomplicated with my color. So all I'm going to do is use these two hues of brown. I figured it's Bigfoot, so it has to have brown in it. So we're, instead of using a stark black, we'll just go ahead and make that a brown color. And then his hat's white, so I'm going to keep that white. But we want the tonal value on Bigfoot's face to be somewhat brown, but a lighter hue. So we're going to do that. On his beard, we don't want it to be white. We'll use the same color. And even on the highlight of what is supposed to be a black band on the hat, we're just going to drop that in. So this is the simplified way I decided to color it. And I'm going to show this client both the color version, but also some one color versions, because I almost like that better. And I'll show you that in just a little bit. So it's at this point I have to figure out how I'm going to lock up type with it. And in general, when I thumbnail out this is what I end up doing, where it's pretty crude sketches. Once again, thumbnailing isn't about refining art. It's about mining ideas. How am I going to lay out the type and compose it with this graphic? I know the client reference to it as a logo. I don't really see this as a standardized logo, even an illustrative logo, like Starbucks would be an illustrative logo, but I still see that as more stylized. This is somewhat illustrative, more illustrative in nature, so I consider it more of a brand graphic that's going to be used to kind of communicate their band to the masses or how many ever people follow them. By the way, I don't have much idea of all the music they do, so doesn't really matter with this name. They could be they could be a polka band if you want with this name, in my opinion. So these are ways I kind of sketched out how to handle the type. And the one I'm leaning towards is either this one, the bottom right, or this one on the top right. I kind of like it going at an angle. And so this is where I'll do simple type exploration, where I just start picking typefaces out of, I probably have an ungodly amount of fonts open at any given time. But these are the ones that I typed out that I thought might be good potential ones to use. I really like this beefy one here in the middle. So that's the one I kind of settled on. Here's my artwork where I lock it up with the type. So I did two type of treatments, one where it's stacked, one where it's kind of going off to the right, so it's more a horizontal and a vertical option. So I'll definitely show the client this, but I also like designs like this in one color. I just think they look a little more impactful. I prefer it that way, but I'm going to give him the choice, and I'll probably just tell him I'll provide him with all these assets. And here's one where it's just one color, brown. And I think this is, in my opinion, technically stronger than the color one. I just think it communicates better. So there's that. And then I also try to create a version of these assets I'm going to give them that works in a one color format on a dark colorized or photographic background. So let me turn on this one here, and this is the colored art, and I've scaled it down, placed it in context with the type. But when I say reversed, what do I do? Well, in this case, we're not going to have color on this, so I'm just going to click in here. We don't need these parts of the face for the color. And then everything on the head, his face, the hair, the highlight, and the band here, all of these will be white like that. So we'll do that. I'm going to drag select everything minus the background shape that makes up the perimeter of his head. So all of these are white. So if I color these like this magenta color, these are the ones I have selected. And all I'm going to do is unite this. If you go to appearance, it's going to default to a group. That's normal. That's how Illustrator handles it. And I'm going to hit F7 key, which is a keyboard shortcut to create a compound. And I'm going to leave that one as it is. Now I'm going to zoom in because the next thing I want to do is create an offset. But right now, between the top of this magenta and the top outer edge of the shape that hosts these shapes sitting on top of it, I want this same distance to be the offset. Now, I've scaled it since I originally built it. When I built it, it was, I believe, 8 points. And so I'm just going to create a rectangular shape, select these two anchors, slide it up. I have smart guides turned on, so it'll snap. And now if I select this shape and I go up here into the control panel on the vertical, this is the size. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that to the clipboard. I can delete this rectangle now. I'll select the perimeter shape here. Let's zoom out. And I'll go object, we'll go path, we'll go offset path. I'm going to select round, and I'll punch in that specific number and click OK. And let's go ahead and color it like a blue so you can see it. So you can see I've created this offset based off of the host shape. Once I have that, I'll select the brown shape that I did the offset from and the offset shape that was created. And here I'm going to go minus front. So that's just kind of punching it through. And then the next thing I need to do is I want this to fuse with the typography. So I'm just going to create a throwaway shape like this that we'll use to edit the type. Go like that. Let's go ahead and color this something else so you can see a difference, something like that. If we zoom out, I select this. This is already a compound path, so I'll select this shape that's above it, and I'll go minus front. And now all I have to do, let's zoom in so you can see this better, is I'll select everything now, and I'll go unite, and it's going to revert to a group, so I'll turn it into a compound. And now I'll go ahead and color this white. Let's go back to layers. I'll turn on a dark background, and that's how it works on a dark background. I also do that with the horizontal version as well. That way they have a graphic that they can drop on any kind of colorized dark background, and it's going to work really well. This also, in my opinion, is the best way to handle a t-shirt. I don't like a lot of full color. Actually, that's why I'm wearing this. It's like, I like the one color approach to t-shirt design. So I think this is going to work really well for them. And I also decided another thing I'm going to show them is badge design. So here's a badge design where I took the color element and I made a colored version of a badge graphic, and once again, a one color version. And I kind of had fun with the copywriting on the slogan. So rock and roll by executive order, since it's based off of Harry Truman, the whole pun of this design. So hopefully you enjoyed this movie. It's a little offbeat. It's more of a over the shoulder, although I didn't script anything. I'm just kind of doing this off the top of my head. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you, as always, for watching People Love Process. I hope within the midst of all the crazy stories and narrative that you found some helpful methodology that I shared with you. Once again, if you can give me a like or share my channel with a friend, that always helps me to grow this channel. So stick with it, keep with it, and I hope this helps you to improve your own creative process.